the increase in the ESG rules and the interest in sustainability, I think it's happening for a multitude of reasons. One is that audiences are more aware, more knowledgeable. I'm not saying any of them are going to the cinema or clicking on a streamer because, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch this film or series because it was really shot sustainably. It's not what I'm saying. But there's a certain level of awareness that comes from the consumer at this point, and that awareness actually puts a lot of um, a lot of pressure on content producers, on filmmakers as well to some degree. So now, if you make a mistake and you called out to be doing something that's very unsustainable, that can have a really bad backlash on your show. So that's one thing. But obviously, we don't just want to act from fear. The other thing is there are quite a lot of regulations coming, and they work as a carrot and a stick approach. So some will work as the stick and they'll punish you like some of the German approaches. They're a bit like you've got a baseline standard, and they are going to withhold the money if you're not fulfilling the sustainability requirements blanket just like that. With the other ones, some policies, some countries, they take different avenues and they use the carrot, and they're more like, we'll give you an incentive, a 5% uptake um, on your tax rebate or your financials if you fulfill it sustainably. So, for example, if you look at Austria, they introduced a 5% bonus. Um, Slovakia has a domestic support. Hungary will have domestic support for their productions. New Zealand is doing something. So every country is doing something. So one way comes from the top, and another way comes from the grassroots, from the audience. And I think it's all about the shifting demands and the shifting interests. Like ESG is just coming from every tap. Wherever you look, it would be completely unrealistic to ignore it. And it was Dorothy Fortenberry. I think her words are like used so many times at this point. Basically, everyone uses it, but I'm gonna paraphrase it. But she said something like, um, oh, I should look this up, but it's on our website as well. She said something like, if you don't, if you don't include climate change and climate action in your stories and your plots and your script at this point, then that is science fiction because it's here with us, it exists. And I think she knows what she's talking about because she's written Extrapolation and Handmaid's Tale and some of the best science fiction stories. So here we go.
What would you say the opportunities bring for an organization when they have somebody dedicated and focused on ESG?
So I think it's key to have someone who actually focuses on ESG dedicatedly because um, what if you think about a production, depending on the size of your production, you'll have someone dedicated who looks after props, costume, lights, location, all of that. ESG is similar, or sustainability is similar. It's a new department, it's a fledgling department. But if you want it to be done coherently, if you want to have a holistic view, if you want to be able to cover all your grounds, you actually need someone who can like focus all their attention to this. And it's not just an afterthought, like, they're not for production coordinator, APOC, whatever, who has or like worseman, they give it to the travel and accommodation. Poor guys, they're like terribly overworked already. And on top of that, you get something where you need a lot of empathy, you need a lot of focus, and you need a lot of initiative, because you're learning every second of the day, you're learning something new, and you have to have enough stamina and courage, I think, to be able to communicate that towards your crew, your production, your client, everyone. And I think that actually requires a lot of focus. You can't just give it to someone who's already overworked.
Agreed, 100%. And for anybody new coming into our industry and taking on that key ESG role, what tip would you give them?
So my biggest tip would probably be find your circle, find your peers, and make sure you're not alone. Because it can be a very rewarding job, but it can be a very disheartening job as well. Partly because it's still a new job, no one really knows how to do it. Your barriers are not set up. Your work is like your path is not trodden for you yet. You're treading it, and that's always hard. But also partly because just from the nature of the work, it stands that, it can be very disheartening sometimes. You get all the bad news. You don't have time to focus on the good news. There's good news as well, but we tend to see the bad news. And then all the people who you're talking to, you basically have to convince them all day, and they'll just give you a lot of the bad news. So I think it helps to have your peers around you. So sometimes you're just able to let the steam off, and you just ventilate and you talk to each other and you see that they're going through the same stuff as you do.